Fly, Eagles fly, baby.
Questions for Jihaad?
Hey, Jihaad, last night you talked about the decision to go to IMG.
Yeah.
Why was that important to you, and what was your experience like there?
Just throughout my whole life, really just accepting challenge, and having my support system with me, and understanding, just different aspects of life and different life situations, and really how to go through it. It's a big sequence of my life, and I think that was the best thing that happened to me. Just persevering and overcoming every adversity that came my way.
How old were you when you first thought maybe realistically you could one day play for the Eagles?
Man. You said how old?
Yeah, like really, thinking about.
I think when I was at my grandparents' house, man, I gotta shout out my grandfather, man, Pop. When I was younger and I seen all the card selections that he had, I was like, I know it. I could definitely play for them boys.
And then getting to the facility today, realizing that dream, what has today been like for you?
It's been good, just taking it day by day and just going through the process. I mean, I'm even enjoying it right now here with you guys. So,
what was the experience like in Green Bay, and are you happy you went?
Experience was everything. I mean, just the things that God does, and when you serve God in a certain way, and you pray and you make sure that you're in His guidance, and that you're receptive to His blessings. I mean, it's major, definitely.
What do you like about being an edge rusher, and what do you like about being a linebacker, and how different are they?
I like being a football player. I like being an absolute baller, a dude that can do everything, that can learn and grow, and just maximize each and every opportunity that I have to play this game.
Is being so close to home, is it more comfortable for you when you go through things like this to be?
Yeah, definitely. When I was in the plane, I was looking like, dang, I'm really back home. That's when it hit me. I was like, okay, all right.
Jihaad, I think you only had one interaction, you said last night, with the Eagles, and that was with Washburn, a brief conversation with Jeremiah Washburn. Is that the only interaction you had in the pre-draft process? Was just that one incident?
Prior to the draft and stuff like that, I had talked to Howie, and we was getting to know each other, and just building that relationship. And I mean, now look at where I am. So the relationship definitely turned out well.
Did you come here for that visit?
No.
You've mentioned your grandfather a few times. What's his role been in your life?
I mean, one of the biggest supporters in my life. He always makes sure that he texts me, and say, love Pop Out, love my mom. Make sure, you just keep being a good person in life. Just keep being a great football player.
What was your grandfather's reaction when you found out you got drafted by the
Man, I thought he was about to faint, but he was definitely lit though, man. I was super happy and excited, that he got to, watch that moment and that I got to cherish that moment with him. So,
How important is it for you that you're coming to a place they've had success? Obviously, just won a Super Bowl a couple months ago, been to 3 Super Bowls in 8 years, playoffs every year. You're coming #1 defense in the NFL last year. You're coming to a place that's pretty established, successful.
I mean, I think, it's all about my process and, part of my, my journey. I just came from Alabama. So that's literally the same, program/organization that I came from. And, another thing that I want to hit on that, Coach Sirianni was talking about too is, tough, detailed, and together. That was a big thing that stood out to me, and understanding, what that meant and how he wants this, organization to be ran. The standard, everybody just playing together, just being with each other and everybody, just connecting.
You've talked a lot about winning and Alabama. Were you disappointed at all that you didn't get that ring at Alabama, and how does that transform to coming here?
It's all a part of the process, you know what I'm saying? So I learned and I grew, from that situation. Everybody did on that team. All it did was just add more fuel to the fire for my journey. So
I was talking to you about your health last night, and I'm just curious throughout your career, even dating back to your early days of playing football, something that you've dealt with, and I'm wondering how that has shaped you as a player, like being able to go through the rehab process. As people have talked about your response to those things.
Yeah.
How that shaped you.
I mean, it's tough. You got a lot of critics, a lot of people that don't see that process. And I'm not even just talking about myself. I'm talking about people that's, that has injuries right now, that's going through the draft process, so that's, you know, not really on social media, posting what they're doing and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that's critical, you know, just to trust in yourself, believe in yourself, and always have a firm, tight, you know, circle around you and a great foundation and support system.
So support system, I mean, to not go into despondency, I guess, in those kind of moments. But what has helped you throughout your career in that? Like, where did that come from?
I would say really like, you know, my parents, mentors, trainers, you know, just for helping me, you know, the path that was in my life, you know, guided and, you know, mentored in a certain way, of, you know, just attacking each and every day like it was my last. And I mean, that's what I did, and I'm still doing that, so.
As the draft was going on last night, when did you get a sense that you might end up with the Eagles? Like, how was that, like, going through your mind and everything?
I was just taking it one pick at a time, man, just being patient, you know, worth the wait, and just extremely humble, you know, about the situation, and I'm excited. I'm really excited to be an Eagle, so.
In these past 4 years since moving down to Florida, how often were you able to make it back home, and how did you spend the Super Bowl this year?
Really, I was focused, you know what I'm saying, focused and, you know, just preparing on, you know, my craft and what I had to do, you know, to get better each and every day. And the Super Bowl this past year, so I was in Arizona, you know, I was training for the combine and stuff, and I was at, you know, one of the agents, you know, in my agency house, and I was definitely rooting for them Eagles.
Jihaad, you played some offense, I think, at IMG, right?
Yeah.
7 touchdowns. Was there ever a part of you thought, hey, you know, maybe I can play some?
I could do a little bit of something.
What were you, running back or?
I was running back, receiver, quarterback before, not in high school though. Yeah, I definitely played those positions on offense. I thought I was going to be an offensive player until I started getting a little aggressive. That's when I said, all right, I gotta, you know, I gotta go to defense.
There's quite a few Alabama guys here. Yeah, I think maybe you crossed over with Eli 1 year. He went to IMG as well.
Tyler Steen too. And Cam Latu, he just got here. Yeah.
How important is it to you to have those sort of Alabama?
I mean, it's great, man. You know, just that brotherhood, that B-side five, you know, for life. It goes a long way. You know, you see a lot of different dudes that's in the league right now that, you know, rep that A on their chest still and, you know, hold that tradition and that standard, you know, within whatever they're doing in their life. So it means a lot.
Which of your new teammates are you most looking forward to playing with?
Say it again?
Which of your new teammates are you most looking forward to playing with?
Everybody, for real. I mean, you know, the Eagles got a great organization full of coaches, full of, you know, front office people, executives, and, of course, the players. So I'm just gladly, you know, appreciated to be a part of that.
How far along are you in your rehab, and do you expect to be ready for training camp?
Yeah, I'm just taking that day by day right now. You know, just really just in progress with that. So.
Are there any players that you really, you know, enjoy watching on film, defensive players in the league that you kind of try to craft your game after that or remind you of yourself?
Definitely. I like to watch a lot of different defensive players. I don't really, you know, just watch one person. But some people that I could definitely point out is I got to definitely go with Zack Bond for sure. You know, him just being versatile and, you know, his instincts and his reaction to, you know, his awareness of the game. Like, it's definitely special. You know, a guy like Fred Warner, you know, he definitely has a lot of great instincts to him too. And obviously a guy like Michael Parsons, you know, a guy that can do it all. So
we'll take 2 more questions.
On that, you know, last night you were talking about your versatility. I mean, going back to high school, the journey going from just hand in the ground to, you know, standing up as a linebacker.
Yeah.
You know, what was it at the beginning that made you trust in that? And you know, obviously, you know, that's worked out since kind of at the beginning. What was it like moving from that?
I mean, I think it was just preparation, you know what I'm saying? Like, figuring out what I want to do. Okay, bet. Now I'm going to work my butt off to, you know, get to the best version of myself, you know what I'm saying? So that was the best thing for me, you know, in my mindset. Like, everything that I did, whether I was playing on offense and I was being a receiver, okay, well, outside of practice now I'm going to, you know, train on some routes and stuff like that or, you know, some releases, you know, just to be the best version of myself.
At the combine, you got a lot of these same questions, and your answer was Mr. Do-It-All. That's what you said you were.
Yeah.
In your life, have you found that, you know, you've been, I guess people have tried to put you in that box, and you just view yourself as a football player?
You exactly said it right. Got it right.
Dave.
When did Zack Bond get on your radar? Because he hadn't, like before last year, hadn't kind of established himself in this league.
Yeah, I mean, just football evolving and, that type of guy being in the number one defense in the nation, which is, Philadelphia Eagles. And I got a chance to, definitely watch some film and watch some tape on him and, just see how special he is.
Okay. Thanks, Jihaad.